When your phone explodes with a message from a stranger saying, "I'm so sorry, but you need to know the truth about your wife," you're never ready for what comes next. I was sitting in my home office in Glendale, reviewing blueprints for a new pipeline project, when a notification lit up my screen from Emma_Designs_2019. I didn't know any Emma. My fingers froze over the keyboard. Something about the tone of that message made my heart race. "Who are you?" I typed. "I'm Emma, your wife Sharon's colleague. We're all stuck together at a hotel in Sacramento because of quarantine restrictions. Look, I don't want to interfere, but this isn't right." She said, "You and Kevin are happy." I can't stay silent. "Kevin." That's me. She knew my name. My wife talked about me to her colleagues. But what exactly did she mean by, "this isn't right"? "What are you talking about?" I tried to stay calm, though my hands were already trembling. The next message came with a photo. Sharon. My Sharon, with whom I'd spent 6 years. She was sitting at the hotel restaurant bar, and her hand was resting on the knee of a man I'd never seen. Tall, athletic, with a tattoo on his forearm. They were looking at each other the way Sharon and I had looked at each other on our wedding day. "This is Marcus, our art director." "Kevin, I'm so sorry. This started 3 days ago. We're all stuck here because of an outbreak, can't leave." The first few days everyone stuck together, but then, they started drinking. A lot of drinking. I saw them kissing in the hallway. I saw her going into his room at night. I told her it was wrong, that she has a husband. She asked me not to tell you. Promised it was a mistake, that it wouldn't happen again. But this morning I saw her at his door again. I reread the message 5 times. Then 10. The words didn't change. Reality didn't change. Sharon. My Sharon, who always woke up first to make me coffee. Who laughed at my jokes, even the dumbest ones. Who promised we were forever. I looked at our family portrait on the wall. We were smiling. We were happy. Weren't we? How long have they known each other? I wrote to Emma. Marcus has been with the company for 2 years. But they worked on different projects. This Sacramento project is their first time working together. I swear, until this trip I didn't notice anything between them. So it wasn't planned long ago. It happened spontaneously. Did that make it better? Worse. I didn't know. I called Sharon. She didn't answer. I called again. And again. On the 5th try she picked up. "Kev, hi. Sorry, I was in a meeting." Her voice was so familiar, so normal. "Who is Marcus?" I couldn't play these games. Silence. Long, heavy silence that told me everything. "Kevin?" Her voice trembled. "Oh, Marcus." I repeated, trying not to yell. "He's my colleague. Kevin, I can explain everything." "Did you sleep with him?" Silence again. "Sharon." Answer. "My question. It wasn't like that. We got stuck here, we had drinks I didn't plan." She was crying, but I didn't care. "How many times?" "Kevin." "How many times?" Three nights." Her voice almost disappeared. 3 nights. Not one mistake. Not one drunken evening. 3 conscious decisions to betray our marriage. This was the moment when I realized there was no going back. "We're done," I said and hung up. She called back 27 times in the next hour. I didn't answer. Instead, I wrote to Emma. "Thank you for telling me. I know it was difficult. I'm really sorry, Kevin. If there's anything I can do." "Actually, there is. Tell me everything you know about Marcus." Emma turned out to be a real treasure trove of information. Marcus was divorced, 32 years old, lived in an apartment downtown Glendale. He was known for his workplace romances, but had never gotten involved with married women before. At least as far as Emma knew. "One more thing," she wrote. "Sharon told him that you two are unhappy together. That you're cold and don't pay attention to her. Marcus thinks he's rescuing her from a bad marriage." I leaned back in my chair. Cold. I worked 12-hour days so we could afford this house. I always remembered anniversaries, birthdays, brought flowers just because. I cooked dinners when she worked late. What else was I supposed to do? But did it matter now? She created a narrative to justify her betrayal. It was classic. The weight of those words hit me harder than I expected. For 6 years I thought I was building something real. Every morning I woke up next to her, every evening I came home to her, I thought we were solid. Unbreakable. The kind of couple other people envied. We didn't fight much. We laughed together. We made plans for the future. Vague plans, sure, but plans nonetheless. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe we'd gotten too comfortable, too predictable. Maybe I had stopped seeing her as someone who needed to be pursued, romanced, reminded that she was special. But no. I shook my head, physically trying to clear those thoughts. This wasn't on me. I wasn't the one who broke our vows. I wasn't the one who chose to betray trust instead of having an honest conversation about what was missing. I thought it couldn't get worse, but Sharon returned home 3 days later. I didn't meet her at the door. When she walked in, I was sitting in the living room with boxes. Kevin. She looked exhausted, eyes red from crying. These boxes are for your things. I want you moved out by the end of the week. Please give me a chance to explain. Explain what? That you slept with another man for 3 nights? That you told him I was a bad husband so you wouldn't feel guilty? She went pale. How did you? Doesn't matter how. What matters is that it's true. Kevin, it was a mistake. A huge mistake. I love you. I've always loved only you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been sleeping with Marcus in a hotel room while I was here waiting for you to come home. She collapsed onto the couch, face in her hands. I don't know what came over me. We drank, he was so attentive, so I felt desired again. Again? I never made you feel undesired. You're always at work. You're always busy with your projects, your blueprints. When was the last time we just talked? When was the last time you looked at me the way Marcus? Don't you dare compare me to the man you cheated on me with. We screamed for another hour. She cried, begged, promised everything would change. I was unmoved. Trust was gone. Love was gone. Only pain and anger remained. During that argument, I learned more about my marriage than I had in the entire 6 years we'd been together. She talked about feeling invisible. About how I came home tired and distant. About how she tried to talk to me about it, but I always said I was just stressed about work. She said she felt like a piece of furniture in my life, present but not really noticed. I wanted to scream that she was wrong, but a small part of me wondered if there was truth in her words. Had I taken her for granted? Had I stopped really seeing her? But then another part of me, the louder, angrier part, reminded me that even if all of that was true, she still had choices. She could have demanded couples therapy. She could have given me an ultimatum. She could have left me before betraying me. Will you be with him? I asked when emotions subsided a bit. She wiped her tears. He said he loves me. That he wants to be with me. Of course he said that. It's easy to love someone else's wife when you don't have to deal with real life. It's not like that. He's real. He understands me. Then go to him. Be with him. But we're done. The next weeks were blurry patches of lawyer meetings, dividing property, painful conversations about who takes what. We didn't have children, which made everything a bit simpler, but no less painful. The house became a battlefield of memories. Every room held something. A photograph, a souvenir from a trip, a piece of furniture we'd picked out together. The kitchen where we'd had our first big fight about whose turn it was to do dishes, then laughed about it 20 minutes later. The bedroom where we'd talked about our dreams late into the night. The backyard where we'd hosted barbecues with friends, playing the perfect couple. And then what happened after that, it was worth hearing. Sharon actually moved in with Marcus. I saw their photos on social media. They looked happy. Too happy. Staged happy. Emma messaged me occasionally, keeping me updated on office gossip. You know, everyone at work is talking about them, she wrote a month later. It's awkward. 2 people got divorced because of their affair. Well, one married person. Does his ex-wife know? I asked. Yes. She called Sharon some unpleasant words when they ran into each other at a coffee shop. It was quite a scene. I didn't take joy in other people's misery, but there was a certain justice in Sharon also experiencing public judgment. I started going to therapy. My therapist, Dr. Patterson, was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who didn't let me get away with anything. When I tried to blame myself for Sharon's affair, she stopped me cold. Kevin, let me be clear about something. You may have been an imperfect husband. You may have been distracted by work. You may have failed to meet some of her emotional needs. But none of it, made her cheat. That was her choice. She had 1,000 other options. She chose betrayal. Those words helped, but they didn't take away the pain. Nothing could. I had to sit with it, work through it, let it transform me into someone new. Someone who didn't trust as easily. Someone who watched for signs. Someone who was a little bit broken but trying to heal. But the Real bomb dropped 3 months later. Kevin, you won't believe this. Emma sent a message on Saturday morning. Marcus quit his job. Took a project in Seattle. Without Sharon. My heart stopped. He left her? Worse. He said their affair was heat of the moment. That he's not ready for a serious relationship. That they rushed moving in together. Sharon came to work in tears. She said he just disappeared. Took his stuff from the apartment while she was at work and left. I sat staring at my phone, not knowing what to feel. Part of me rejoiced she got what she deserved. Part of me felt empty sadness. The person I once loved was now destroyed. My reaction shocked even her friends. I found out later from Emma that Sharon's friends had initially taken her side. They'd heard her version of events: the neglected wife, the cold husband, the passionate romance that saved her from a loveless marriage. But when Marcus left, when the fairy tale crumbled, they started asking questions. They started wondering if maybe Sharon had lied to them too. If maybe she'd crafted a story that made her the victim when she was actually the villain. One of her closest friends, Jessica, reached out to me. We met for coffee, awkward and tense. "I owe you an apology," Jessica said. "Sharon told us you were emotionally abusive. That you controlled her. That you made her feel worthless. I believed her because she's my friend. But then Marcus left and she told me he said almost the same things about her that she said about you. That she was too needy, too clingy, too demanding. And I started to realize, maybe the problem wasn't you or Marcus. Maybe the problem was Sharon." I didn't know what to say to that. It felt vindicating but also sad. Sharon had destroyed her own life with lies and selfishness, and she dragged so many people down with her. "She asked for your number," Emma wrote. "I didn't give it. Said it wasn't my business. Thank you." But Sharon found another way. She showed up at my house late one evening, a week after Marcus disappeared. I opened the door and saw her, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, wearing an old hoodie she used to wear when we first started dating. "Kevin." Her voice was hoarse. "What are you doing here, Sharon?" I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. A bit late for apologies. I know I destroyed everything. I know you'll never forgive me. But I have to say this. You were a good husband. The best. And I threw it all away for a fantasy. And now I'm left with nothing. Marcus left. You know. Emma told me. She smiled crookedly. Of course. Emma always keeps you informed. Don't make her the villain. She's the only one who had the dignity to tell me the truth. I know. Sharon wiped her tears. He told me he loved me. That we'd be together. And then, when it all became real, when there was no more secrecy, excitement, he just left. And what do you want from me? Sympathy? No. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About everything. It wasn't love. It was selfishness and fear of aging, and a stupid need to feel young again. And I gave up everything for it. I looked at her, at the person who had been my life for 6 years. Part of me wanted to hug her, tell her everything would be okay. But a bigger part remembered the pain, the betrayal, the lies. I'm sorry you're hurting, Sharon. I really am. But I can't be the one to save you. Not this time. She nodded, smiled weakly through tears. I know. I just wanted you to know I regret it. Every day. Every second. Good night, Sharon. I closed the door and she left. For the last time. Emma wrote to me the next day. Sharon submitted her resignation. Says she can't work at the company anymore after everything that happened. Everyone knows her story. Everyone whispers. She's looking for work in another city. Where is she going? Don't know. She's not telling anyone. Just wants to start over. I put down my phone and looked around my empty house. It was too big for one person. Too quiet. But it was mine. My life was mine. The emptiness was overwhelming sometimes. I'd wake up on weekends and forget, just for a moment, that Sharon wasn't there. I'd start to make 2 cups of coffee before remembering. I'd see something funny and reach for my phone to text her before stopping myself. The ghost of our marriage haunted every corner of that house. That's when I decided to sell it. Too many memories. I moved to an apartment closer to downtown. Started going to yoga, met new people. Emma and I met for coffee a few times, just as friends. She was a good person. Honest. The kind of person I thought Sharon was. But I also started doing something else. Something I hadn't told anyone about. I began documenting everything. Every message from Emma about Sharon and Marcus. Every photo I'd found. Every lie Sharon had told. I created a detailed timeline of the affair, from the first day they were stuck in Sacramento to the day Marcus left her. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew I needed it. Needed proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined how bad it was. And then, 6 months after Sharon had moved out, I got a call from Marcus's ex-wife, Jennifer. You don't know me, she said, but I know what happened to you. What happened to me. And I think we should talk. We met at a restaurant halfway between our homes. Jennifer was sharp, put together, with eyes that had seen too much betrayal. Marcus did the same thing to me, she said. Had an affair, promised the other woman everything, left me devastated. But he came back. 6 months later he came crawling back saying it was a mistake, begging for forgiveness. And I, like an idiot, took him back. We went to therapy. He promised to change. And then 2 years later he did it again. With someone else. And that's when I finally left for good. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Sharon is going to come back to you. Maybe not now, but eventually. When she's hit rock bottom and has nowhere else to turn, she's going to remember that you were good to her. And she's going to try to come back. And I wanted to tell you, don't let her. People like her and Marcus, they don't change. They just get better at hiding. Her words chilled me. I won't take her back. Good. And there's something else. Marcus is back in Glendale. He's looking for work. And I heard through the grapevine that he's been bad-mouthing you and Sharon both, telling people you were the problem in your marriage, that Sharon was unstable. He's rewriting history to make himself the victim. That's when the anger, which had been simmering all these months, finally boiled over. After that moment, her life was never the same again. A year passed. I was standing on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sunset over Glendale. My phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. Kevin, it's Sharon. I know I have no right to write. But I wanted you to know, I moved to Portland. Found a new job. Started therapy. Trying to become a better person. The person I should have been for you. I hope you found happiness. You deserve it. Unlike me. Goodbye, Kevin. I looked at the message, then deleted it. Not out of anger. Not out of hate. Simply because that chapter was closed. Before I continue, please pause the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting stories. Thank you. But I wasn't entirely honest in my response to Jennifer. I had taken her advice, but I'd also done something more. Something that would ensure Sharon and Marcus both faced consequences that went beyond just losing each other. I took all the documentation I'd compiled, the timeline, the messages, the photos, and I created a detailed, factual account of what happened. Not a revenge post. Not a rant. Just facts, dates, and evidence. And I sent it to the HR department of Sharon's former company, along with a note explaining that Marcus had engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. Sharon reported to him indirectly through the project structure, while they were on a work trip, using company resources. The company took it seriously. Very seriously. They launched an investigation. And while Sharon was already gone, Marcus's reputation in the industry was destroyed. Word got around. He was effectively blacklisted from major firms in the area. His LinkedIn profile, once full of endorsements and recommendations, suddenly went quiet. But that wasn't the end of it. Because Jennifer had given me another piece of information. Marcus had done this before, and there were other women. Other victims. I found 3 of them through LinkedIn and mutual contacts. We compared stories. We documented patterns. And together we created a website, not naming Marcus directly to avoid legal issues, but describing the pattern of behavior, the warning signs, and the tactics he used. We called it the Glendale Project, and made it searchable for anyone doing due diligence on potential partners or colleagues. Within 6 months, the site had hundreds of visitors. Several women reached out, sharing their own stories about Marcus. The site grew beyond just him. It became a resource for people to anonymously report patterns of workplace affairs and manipulation. It was careful, legal, and devastating to those who deserved it. Emma wrote to me months later, "You know that website, the Glendale Project? Marcus knows about it. He can't prove who created it, but he knows. He's furious. He's been trying to get it taken down, but since it doesn't mention him by name and everything on it is factual accounts from real people, there's nothing he can do. He's basically unemployable now in design firms around here. Last I heard, he was moving to Phoenix to try to start over." Sharon never found out about my involvement. She never knew that the reason her story became semi-public knowledge wasn't just office gossip, but a calculated documentation of the truth. She thought it was just bad luck, just karma. She never knew I had helped karma along. And you won't guess how it all ends. 2 years after the divorce, I was at a yoga class when I met someone. Her name was Rachel. She was a structural engineer, brilliant and funny, with trust issues that matched mine. We went for coffee. Then dinner. Then more dinners. We talked about our past relationships. She'd been engaged to someone who cheated, so she understood. We took things slowly. Very slowly. Neither of us was in a rush to jump into anything serious. But here's the thing about starting over after betrayal. You're more careful, yes, but you're also more appreciative of the good things. I noticed everything Rachel did that showed she was trustworthy. The way she never hid her phone. The way she introduced me to her friends and family early on. The way she talked about boundaries and expectations openly, without fear. And then, 3 years after my divorce, I ran into Sharon at a grocery store. It was the most civilized kind of awkward. We were in the produce section, both reaching for avocados. "Kevin," she said, surprised. "Sharon. How are you?" Okay. Good, actually. Therapy help. I'm dating someone new. Taking it slow this time. Learning to be honest even when it's hard." She paused. "You look happy." "I am. I'm seeing someone. Rachel. She's great." "I'm glad." And the weird thing was, Sharon seemed to mean it. "I really am glad you found happiness. You always deserved it." "You too, Sharon. I hope you found what you needed." We said goodbye and I walked away feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing. Just the neutral feeling of running into someone you used to know. But the final surprise came 6 months later. Emma sent me one last message. "Remember Jennifer, Marcus's ex? She started dating Sharon's former boss, the one who fired Marcus after the investigation. Small world, huh? Anyway, they're engaged. And guess who wasn't invited to the wedding? Marcus tried to reach out to Jennifer, asking if they could talk about old times. She blocked him on everything. Thought you'd appreciate the irony." I did appreciate it. I appreciated all of it, the cosmic justice, the slow unfolding of consequences, the way truth eventually surfaces no matter how much people try to bury it. I survived. I moved on. And they both lived with the consequences of their choices. Sharon lost everything: her husband, her lover, her job, her reputation, her sense of self. She had to rebuild from scratch, and maybe she did. Maybe she became a better person. I hope she did, actually. Not for my sake, but for hers. Marcus lost even more. He lost his career, his reputation, his ability to easily manipulate others. The website continued to grow, and while he couldn't be directly linked to it, everyone in the industry knew. His pattern was exposed. His tactics were documented. He couldn't hide anymore. And me? I gained something unexpected: perspective. I learned that betrayal doesn't have to define you. That you can take the worst thing that ever happened to you and use it to become more careful, more aware, more empathetic to others going through the same thing. Rachel and I got engaged on a Sunday afternoon, nothing fancy, just the two of us on a hike with a view of the valley. She said yes with tears in her eyes, and I absolutely knew, that this time was different. Not because people can't change or betray, but because we both went into it with eyes wide open, with communication as our foundation, with trust that was built slowly and carefully. The house I once shared with Sharon became someone else's home, filled with someone else's memories. My new apartment became a place of peace. Then eventually Rachel and I bought a place together. Smaller, cozier, with a garden she insisted on planting herself. Sometimes, late at night, I think about what would have happened if Emma hadn't reached out. If I'd never known. If Sharon had come home from that trip and continued the affair in secret. How long would it have gone on? Would I have eventually figured it out, or would I have lived in ignorant bliss? But then I remember, I would have known, eventually. Lies always surface. Truth always finds a way out. Emma just accelerated the inevitable. And I'm grateful for that. Grateful for the truth even though it hurt. Grateful for the pain that taught me what I really wanted. Grateful for the betrayal that led me to someone better. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic. It isn't public humiliation or financial ruin. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Building a better life. Becoming a better person. Letting karma do its work while you focus on your own happiness. Sharon reached out one more time years later. A simple message: "I heard you got engaged. Congratulations." She's lucky. I wrote back equally simple: "Thank you. I hope you're doing well." And that was it. The final period on a chapter that had closed long ago. I married Rachel on a spring day with our families present. Emma came to the wedding. She'd become a real friend over the years. Jennifer came too, with Sharon's former boss, now her husband. There was a poetry to that guest list, a sense of justice and closure. As Rachel and I exchanged vows, I thought about Sharon for just a moment. About the promises we'd made, the promises she'd broken. But this time I wasn't afraid. This time I knew what real commitment looked like. What real trust felt like. And as we kissed to seal our marriage, I knew with absolute certainty, I had won. Not because Sharon and Marcus had suffered, though they had. Not because I'd exposed their betrayal, though I had. But because I'd taken the worst thing that ever happened to me and transformed it into wisdom, strength, and ultimately, genuine happiness. It was the calmest day before the storm had passed completely, and the sun finally came out. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.